So No Man's Sky does a pretty good job at guiding you through its first few hours, teaching you many of the core gameplay mechanics, survival techniques and whatnot, but there are many hidden features and tricks that you can use that the game kinda lets you discover on your own, and these could all prove very useful, especially if you want to get the most out of it. That is why in this video I want to go over 8 more things that No Man's Sky doesn't tell you about. As always, consider leaving a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and I also want to take a few seconds to congratulate our February giveaway winner that I already announced a few days ago. For everybody else, good luck next time, but don't worry, there's going to be more giveaways coming up really soon, so definitely keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, a huge thanks to Instant Gaming for helping me with these giveaways, and you can also follow the links under this video to get the best gaming discounts on their website. I want to start things off with a few cool tricks that I've learned after the Living Ship update has been added in the game, and it seems that you can also get regular starship modules for your regular ships from the new space encounters and not just for the organic ones. So normally speaking, when you're playing with the organic ship, you have a chance at spawning some of these alien eggs that once you shoot them down, they kinda give you these new modules that only fit in the new living ships. Well, apparently there's also the equivalent of this for the other ships that we have for the regular ones, and in one of my playthroughs I was able to encounter one of these called living metalloids. So apparently these can spawn at random, pretty much like the alien eggs for the organic ones, but in this case they drop regular upgrade modules, and even in my case I was able to actually get one with the maximum rank. So definitely something that exists, apparently it is intended, and it's nice to see that we have an additional feature of acquiring these and not just buying them with nanites from the space station. Moving on to number 2, there's definitely a lot of money-making opportunities added in the new update, but I'm just going to name a few of my favorite ones, and I'm gonna start things off with definitely the top on my list, which is this one right here, the Hazard Containment Field, which I regularly encounter, especially in blue systems with a high war level, so like 2 or 3 spawns them quite often, but these are really awesome because they also look freaking cool. I mean, they contain all of these crazy creatures inside of them, but once you shoot them down they also provide some really expensive samples, like for example these terrifying samples right here, or these biological samples that also have some lore text included that I kinda like reading from time to time. Then we also have the emergency containment devices, which act very similar to the previous ones I mentioned, as in they also provide some of these high value specimens or samples that you can sell at some really nice prices. And I'm not kidding, you can encounter something like this that costs up to 2 million units per piece, but all of these can sell for some really nice prices on the market as well, so definitely a profit to be made. Finally, we also have the Relic Traders, which are a bit distinct from the NPC traders that have also been added with the new update, but the ones I specifically want to talk about are these Relic Traders, which, just like how the name implies, they will start trading their very well old and sometimes expensive relics at a certain price. You have 3 options over there once the dialogue sequence starts. There is a choice to bargain at a higher price, one at a lower price, and finally to give in something like a faction relic in exchange, such as for example a Viking dagger, which unfortunately in this footage I didn't have upon me, but it's very important you choose this carefully because this is going to influence if you're going to make a profit or go at a loss. For example, sometimes you might bargain at a higher price but instead get a relic that is going to be much cheaper than that, which means that you're going to pretty much go at a loss in this case. But you can also go in and bargain at a very low price and get something very expensive in return, which is totally going to make it worth to going these encounters and bargain with the NPCs. Moving on to number 3, this is both a tip as well as a feature that I actually want to see being added in the game, because if you can believe this doesn't exist in No Man's Sky, but rather Hello Games created it as a separate website. This of course is the Galactic Atlas website, which has so many features, it's so useful, and I really want to see this being added as a feature eventually in the game. First of all, because it's a full-size map of the Euclid galaxy. You can actually go in and check how the galaxy looks like, and it kind of takes into account every position of every planet and every system that exists within the game. So this includes waypoints to popular destinations, like for example player hubs like the Galactic hub and many of the other colonies that people have created over the years. You can also find individual discoveries, like for example planets and systems that people have located and posted. You can see them with screenshots, with like descriptions, even like websites and links over there. So definitely something that I find very useful. And you can also locate your own position relative to the core. So if you're in a certain system and you're wondering how far you are from the core or where you are on the general map, you can go on the Galactic Atlas, input the coordinates, and it's going to show you exactly where you are. And it's crazy and wild to believe that somehow all of this didn't make it into the game. Moving on to number 4, I want to talk about some older tips that you might have forgotten about. I personally did, and I just recently rediscovered how useful they are for pretty much everything, for discovering, for making money, for giving resources. And in this case I want to specifically talk about the barrels and the crates, and I'm especially going to recommend building these on freighters for a reason I'm going to tell you in just a little bit. But the barrels especially are extremely useful. Both of these containers only cost 10 iodized cobalt and 1 antimatter each to build, but they provide an invaluable amount of resources. In the case of the barrels, you're going to get navigation data, antimatter casings, even full warp cells, so you don't have to build them from scratch anymore. And in the case of crates, you can get relics like Viking daggers, Corvax casings, and everything else in between. That is especially useful if you're finding yourself using portals very often and wanting to find them, since this is something that you're going to be using to find them in the first place. But all of these resources can also be sold on the market at some really nice prices, so definitely I recommend going and building at least a few dozen of these barrels and crates on your freighter for the reason that I'm going to tell you right now, which brings me to the 5th spot. Of course, the tip right here is recalling your freighter in a different system completely resets the yield on several of these containers as well as plants over there. So in the case of the barrels and crates, as long as you go in a different system, you can recall the freighter over there and it's going to fully reset its content. So you can go in and recollect the resources again and get as many of them as you want, as long as you of course teleport in different systems. The same goes with, for example, the standing planters, which by the way you can totally go ahead and unlock since they have been re-added in the game, and you can do so in the space anomaly at the NPC that deals with the base technologies, and they're very useful. They give you quite a nice number of carbon, they don't need electricity if you place them inside of your freighter, and they also provide some really nice yield of carbon that again resets once you recall your freighter. Moving on to number 6, you can practice language with NPCs. Even though this is something that many of you might know, many of you might be tempted to put it off since it was broken a while ago and you know it took quite some time to actually fix it, but it provides some really nice rewards, especially standing with the various NPC factions, which is something that could be very useful during the main campaign. There's one mission at one point that requires you to upgrade your standing with certain factions several levels, which might take quite a long time if you do it with regular missions, but in this case you can just go in a dialogue sequence and do it even faster. But there's other rewards in there as well, like teaching you certain words or regenerating your health and shields and whatnot. Nonetheless, once you pick the option in the dialogue screen, you're going to have several words that you can choose from that each kind of fit differently depending on the context and depending on the alien faction that you speak to. So here's a few hints that I'm going to give you. If you're talking with a GAC NPC, try to talk and choose a word that denotes trading or happy stuff. If you're talking about trading with a GAC, generally speaking, he's going to be happy. For Viking, otherwise talk about weapons and other war-related subjects. Meanwhile, for Corvax, choose anything science-related. So anything that a Corvax might say, choose that option, and like 9 times out of 10 you're going to pick the right option that is also going to give you the rewards I was talking about. Moving on to number 7, there's more than a few ways to upgrade your personal inventory. The 3 ones I'm talking about are on the space station right next to the NPC that deals with upgrades for your inventory. The second one is the same one but on the space anomaly, and the third one is going to be some of these drop pods that you can find on random planets. Let's talk about the space station one first, this is a one-time use only, so it's once per space station, it never resets. Once you use it, it's used and you can never reuse it again. The space anomaly, on the other hand, kinda bypasses this restriction, mainly because you can summon it in any system you travel into, so even though it is still only one per system, you can go into a different one, a new one, summon it there and repeat the process all over again and do this every time you're in a new one. So yeah, you kinda don't have the same restrictions as a space station has. The final one is going to be the drop pod, which you can easily identify using your exocraft antennas. I find these to be the least convenient, mainly because they are scattered randomly upon planets. It takes longer to travel to them sometimes, and of course they also require resources to rebuild the computer over there so that it gives you the actual inventory slot. But on the other hand, it also doesn't cost money, so later into the game I would recommend actually using the drop pods and not wasting like 1 million units for one single inventory slot upgrade. Anyway, the final tip on the list is to actually go in and build an Atlas Pass V3, which is really easy. You just have to find a manufacturing facility, which you can do by simply using a map for a secured site of interest, and once you reach it, go in, blow the door, finish the puzzle, and from the options over there, go in and unlock the actual Atlas Pass V3, or even like the lower level of them, but I definitely recommend V3 since it gives you access to everything, and I really mean everything. It's especially useful if you want to go in, for example, on abandoned space stations or for example outposts and unlock all of these secret areas. They are both good for providing some additional resources or stuff that you might find useful in your journeys, but even more so, it provides additional pieces of lore and also uncovers some really cool secrets. Anyway, I'm pretty much done for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of these, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one, so peace out.